Hi, this is Sherry Veronica, the grandmother and the aunt of Amani. Lorde made it into your paper, your Monday paper, The Nation. And as usual, they're saying he was a great kid, nice, salt of the earth. He actually went to a slave built school, but he was selling drinks on the beach. So probably was a disappointment in that area because usually when a kid goes to a slave built school, they expect them to come out and act better than the other ones who went to a newer built school. You know how you guys are in Barbados, right? You love the slave thing and you honor it. And he came out from a slave built school and was on the beach hustling. That's what you call it, right? A hustle, right? And they call him a mixologist. I'm surprised they don't have the word technician behind it, but mixologist. He made specialty drinks using coconut water, and he sold it on the beach. And on this beach, he had interaction with the guy who stabbed him, and they said he shifted. He left that South Coast beach and he went to the West Coast area to work so that he can avoid trouble. But you all saw the video, right? You all saw the video, right? He wasn't trying to avoid trouble. He and the other guy, he and the older guy, they were at it. And there was a part in one of the videos where you saw the older guy hiding behind a van, trying to shelter behind a van from him. And when they come in the news talking about how good he is, and then in the last part of the news, the police are telling people, well, if you saw anything more than what was on the videos, because it's all clear as day on the videos, but the police are asking people to come forward with more information. At the end of one of the videos, the woman said she didn't witness anything. Did you hear that when she said that? What's her name? Erlanda? Grandma, did you hear when the person who took the video, the one that went viral, said she did not witness anything? What do you think she meant by that? What do you think she meant by that? What that Bayesian meant was, it's not in my yard. It's not none of my family members. I don't care. I didn't see anything. I don't have no evidence to give. I don't have no report to give. I didn't witness nothing. Don't care. Bayesians don't care. You wouldn't have cared if it wasn't him involved. She wouldn't have cared if it wasn't him involved. You just don't care. He just appeared in the paper stating that he went to a particular high school. Aren't you supposed to go to high school? Aren't you supposed to go to school at a certain age? What does it matter? Why did that matter that it was a slave-built school? Why? And if that's the case, that it didn't matter that he went to a slave-built school, he was a disappointment. This person here, him, a disappointment. He was a disappointment. You go to a slave-built school and come out selling drinks, hustling on the beach. So it continues. Here they're saying about the whole story behind the incident. The whole story. People, don't know the whole story. Yeah. The whole story is he was out in the street brandishing a cutlass, a machete, and someone else was fending themselves off with rocks. And when he fell, someone took an opportunity to make sure that he didn't come after them again. It didn't end well for Amani. It did not end well for Amani, but it would not have ended well for the person. If that person had fallen and Amani was standing over that person, it may not have ended well for that person either. I, for one, I'm saying self-defense. There's a saying here in the United States: stand your ground. Like, for instance, you shouldn't be running from nobody. You don't have to be running. We don't run. Don't run. So someone is coming after you and coming into your space to harm you, and you're supposed to run. There's something called stand your ground. And if they come close enough where you feel you can be impacted, you can strike out too. So when you're talking about him being such a good kid and the whole story, nobody knows the whole story. Yeah, we know the whole story. We know the whole story. You had a failed child. You probably are poor. You probably brought him in poor, and he probably had enough brain cells to remember enough to go to a slave-built school. And even going to a slave-built school, he was a failure. He was a disappointment. He was hustling with tourists on the beach. He was a hustler. He was a hustler, okay? And you are here talking about the pain that you're feeling because you brought in a child and didn't have the wherewithal to make sure that that child got optimum care. You can see, you saw the first part where they're sitting outside the house, right? You can see that they're not living in the lap of not any kind of luxury, no slave-built luxury, no nothing luxury, okay? So what you are seeing here are people who cannot come to terms with the fact that one of their own lost the race. It's a race for the fittest, right? The fittest will always get their chance to tell their story. If you're the weaker one and you don't really survive it, you're silenced. You're silenced. But in this particular case, they are kind of having some trepidation because their particular progeny that they're brought into this world and into a place like Barbados. Barbados is nowhere to raise a child. That's not a place to raise a child. That's not a place to raise a child. Now, if you care, you should be feeling pain before you had the babies and before you got pregnant. You should be saying, oh my God, so how am I going to support this child, and what kind of place is he going to live, and the neighborhood and the school, and you like the slave-built school, so that goes without saying. But college, and what role would he play in society? Will he become a scientist, this or that? No, you guys don't care about that. All you care about is when something goes wrong, you get in the paper and talk about how good the child was, when it is clear. It is clear, even if he was aggravated, irritated, let's talk about the trauma and whatever else, he left one place and go the other place, and he see the guy again, and what do you call it? You think he was being like stalked? Do you think he was being stalked by the other guy? No, Amani was kind of a failure. Kind of a failure. Come on now. He was a failure. And he was hustling on the beach, and he used, like you pointed out, that since he was using coconuts, the cutlass was part of what he needed for his work. But a lot of people work with other weapons, but when you leave your work, you don't walk around brandishing that particular weapon in public. You don't run after someone on the subway or wherever with something that you use that is really dangerous, while people are walking around and doing whatever they're doing. You put away those things. Even if we have a right, Americans, we have a right to carry. It's our right to have a weapon on us, but it's supposed to be secured. You're supposed to have like 3 different things to unlock before you can actually take it out. It's supposed to be secure. You can't walk around just because you have the right to with a gun, waving it in the air, going to the mall, have the gun waving. You don't do that shit. You can't do that shit. Okay? So Amani was wrong. Not saying that the other guy wasn't wrong too. We don't know if we don't know if he was provoked. We don't know what happened. Like you said, you weren't there too, Auntie and Grandma. You weren't there, okay? So talking about the whole story behind the incident, the whole story behind the incident is you need to come up with some money to bury Amani now. That's the whole story. You see, you're talking too long and you're talking too much. It's a bottom line. It's a bottom line. And the whole story of Amani is you brought him in poor. You were kind of happy. You were kind of happy, had your chest all puffed up when he passed for a slave-built school. You love the colonial system. You love the masters. You love everything they put in place, and you loved it. But he was still a failure after all that puffing up of the chest. He was still a failure because he was hustling on the beach. Okay, it was a hustle. Okay, on the beach. Okay, so you now have to come up. Long story short, you now have to come up with some cash to bury Amani. Okay, so you there's a lot of failures in your storyline, a lot of failures, but the bottom line is now some money to pay the undertaker. You have to pay the undertaker, and I keep telling you guys, you need to stay out of the news when your children act out and get put down, and then you're talking about they're nice boys and they're good boys and they're this and that, and thankfully he doesn't have any children. 20 years old, they usually have like 4, but he has no children. So, it's a chapter closed. That's a chapter closed, okay? So stay out of the news, okay? Grandma, Auntie, Mom, we know that it hurts no matter how you look at it. It's a pain that it's an app. It's an application. It's part of the applications that are inserted into humans. You grieve over your children. It's something that you have to recognize that it's an implant. It's just something that's there, okay? But you also need to recognize that when you bring your children into a situation that is not even good for them, you should have been crying then too. You should cry before. Don't you read your Bible? Don't you read your Bible when it says to cry when you birth a child into this particular world, but when they are gone, rejoice. It should be a happy time. You don't read that part of your Bible? Well, it's in there. That's in there. So you should be thinking hard and long before you decide to have someone fertilize the eggs that you have in you, because this is going to be the outcome. Whether it's going to be like Amani or not, this is going to be the outcome. It's called disappointment and money for the undertaker. Disappointment and money for the undertaker. Okay, pick better, do better, and try to elevate. Try to elevate your thinking. Get better at thinking about bringing kids into a place like Barbados, slave port, slave colony. Think really hard before you do it. But I know what I'm saying is going on deaf ears. You guys are not ready for this. But yeah, Amani Lorde was killed. He was on video, a viral video, trying to put down an older guy. He's 20, and the guy, you can see that guy was older, and the guy did what he thought was best. He stopped him. This is a chapter closed. This is a chapter closed. From my vantage point, it was self-defense. From my standpoint, I don't know if they're going to charge him with manslaughter or what. I don't know how I don't know what they're going to do. But it was 100% self-defense. This is Sherry Veronica.
Help me spread the word about Naked Departure via social media. Subscribe and share to show support and love for our channels.